Good morning, colleagues. We understand there are some people in the queue to registration. We apologize for the delay. We were just waiting for some other observers to get their badge on time, as there is some queues on the registration desk. But thanks for waiting. Okay. Dear observers, my name is Juan Pablo Celis Garcia, and as many of you already know, I serve as the observer focal point for the INC Secretariat. Before we officially start the conversation with observers, allow me to give the floor to the INC chair for a quick moment.
Thank you very much, Juan Pablo. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, dear observers. To begin, I would like to invite everyone to join in a moment of silence to honor the memory of our dear friend, Remy Permentier. Let us take this time to reflect in Remy's legacy of a steadfast commitment to the protection of our planet. Please raise yourself.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Chair, for the moment of silence in honor of Mr. Remy Permentier. And now I am honored to moderate this conversation today with observers hosted by the Executive Director of the United Nations Environment Program, Ms. Inger Andersen, and also Ambassador Luis Vallas Valdivieso, the Chair of the INC, and the Executive Secretary of the Intergovernmental Negotiating Committee on Plastic Pollution, Ms. Jyoti Martur-Philip. This is the fifth event of this format and what has now become a tradition throughout the INC process. And as we are all gathered here in Geneva for the second part of the fifth session of the INC, this is a special occasion and an opportunity for you observers to share your views, feedback, and ask any questions that you may have. Throughout the years, you have demonstrated an unwavering commitment to tackling plastic pollution. You have shared your expertise, knowledge, and experience on an issue that is close to you and the communities that you serve. Thank you for adding your voice to this important conversation and for exemplifying the urgent need to take action now. We have scheduled an hour for this meeting, and as always, I'm grateful to the Executive Director, to the Chair, and the Executive Secretary for making themselves available today, just the day before the kickoff of the second part of the fifth session. I will now hand over to them for the brief opening remarks, and afterwards I will open the floor, the observers, for your comments and questions, and this is why we have a QR code on the screen where you can request the floor if you would wish to speak, ask a question, or similar. Ms. Andersen, you have the floor.
We'll see if this works, because I feel like it's a little bit like the International Court of Justice to sit up there. So I thought maybe either from the podium here it might work better, but so I'm going to have to try to make it all work like this, but so forgive me. But let me just begin by obviously joining in celebrating the memory of Remy Permentier. Some of us are long journey women and long journey men in environmental justice, and Remy was one such person. joined as an activist in Greenpeace, and I was actually looking for some of my Greenpeace friends here, and never stopped speaking to justice, never stopped speaking to environmental issues, and never stopped working for environmental sustainability. His legacy is massive. I was a young woman in Sudan in 1985 when the Rainbow Warrior was blown up. I was working on the drought and the desertification issues in that country, and Remy was working on the oceans. He had a profound impact on ocean conservation and ocean protection, and wanted very much to be a voice, and was very much a voice to the world. Now, we come to Geneva in the conviction that we can make something happen, that we can get an agreement, that we can build a path, and that this agreement can come into existence here. And since Busan, a lot has happened. There has been real momentum, and that momentum has continued to build. We've seen a number of areas of convergence, and we've seen, yes, that some divergence remain. That is the nature of negotiations. But negotiators have made it very clear, and they've said that to the chair, I know, over and over again. Dear Ambassador, they've said, we're coming to Geneva to strike the deal. We're coming to Geneva to get it done. So we will need everybody to lean in. We will need diplomacy. We will need finesse. We will need flexibility. And we will need to keep our eyes on the prize of ending plastic pollution, including in the marine environment. Now, it is very clear that the global spotlight is on us. The global spotlight is looking and watching, and part of what you do as civil society is shine that light. Whether you are from an activist background, whether you are from a scientific background, whether you are from a business background, youth, women, farmers, indigenous people, waste pickers, your voice matters, and shine the light, please, to ensure that we get the best agreement, the strongest start that we possibly can. Because the scale of plastic pollution is absolutely clear, and we are at this decisive moment, and the eyes of the world, as I said, they are really on us, and everyone wants this agreement to get done. I believe that this is a once-in-a-lifetime type of opportunity where we are in this moment, like we were in 1992, like we were in 2015, with monumental agreements got gavelled. Now is the time. And so let us keep our eyes on that prize and not get distracted. Now, I remain very guided by UNEP Resolution 5.14. And that resolution speaks to life cycle approach, it speaks to inclusive, it speaks to legally binding, it speaks to sustainable consumption and production, and member states have made that very clear when they negotiated that back in 2022, and the positions are also very, very clear through these 5 sets of negotiations and now in the 6th. But this is, of course, now a time when member states who have come into the circle of members in the INC are driving the process, and you as observers will help enrich, inform, and shine light on those discussions. There are diverse perspectives, and you bring those and add massive value. And there are real field experiences, and you also bring those and add that to the mix. There is a real understanding from the ground, as well as from the science, as well as from the law, etc., that you bring from business, from youth, from women and indigenous people, waste pickers, etc. All of that matters. Because what matters now is that we bring all of this together, and that we have that help inform decision-making, so that all of this can then play its rightful role in shaping and informing and finally helping the gavelling of this treaty. It will take consensus building. Now is not the time for corner solutions. Now is the time to agree on the text so that we can move forward. Because the problem is not going away. The problem is here and now and really present. Anyone who visits a country where infrastructure is not there, where plastic is in the open environment, wherever you go, will know what we're talking about, will know that there are other ways of doing business that is more wholesome and more sustainable. And that is what we have to figure out through this treaty. From our side at UNEP, we very much welcome your ideas, we welcome your leadership, we welcome your participation and your continued engagement. I want to pay special tribute to the chair, who has been leading us so tirelessly for all this time. He looks as young and as strong as he did when he started this, but let me say that he has not given up. He has traveled to every single regional consultation. He has been there, he's been present, he's been listening, he's been engaging. I need for you also to give him your very, very strong support, because, and a bit of your stamina too, please, because it's going to be 2 intensive days. I also want to pay tribute to my amazing colleagues at the INC Secretariat inside UNEP, led by Jyoti, of course. They have made all of this come together. And to the major groups in the United Nations, registered at ECOSOC, registered at the UNEP MEAs, registered at UNEA, for being present. Your presence matters. And I believe that with your strong and active participation from all the sectors that you represent, we can now get this done. So it's time to act together at every level to gavel the treaty. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Anderson. Now let me give the floor to Ambassador Valles Valdivieso for a brief welcome.
Distinguished colleagues, dear friends, let me begin by warmly welcome all of you and by sincerely thanking Ms. Inger Andersen, the Executive Director of UNEP, for her leadership and dedication to environmental multilateralism. Thank you very much, Executive Director. I also want to thank Ms. Jyoti Mathur-Philip, our Executive Secretary, the Executive Secretary of the INC, and her diligent team for their dedication and professionalism, which has all their work, very hard work they have made possible to resume this INC 5.2 here in Geneva. Thank you very much, dear Jyoti. But most of all, I want to thank you, dear observers, for participating in this INC meeting. I'm truly pleased to see so many familiar faces here in Geneva. Nearly 2,000 observers from every region of the world, representing environmental groups, indigenous peoples, the scientific and academic community, workers throughout the plastic life cycle, UN entities, international agencies, the private sector, and civil society. Your presence is both impressive and also inspiring. From the very start of this process, I have believed that broad and inclusive engagement with observers is not just welcome, it is vital. Your contributions have enriched the work of the INC. You have brought not only strong convictions, but also deep experiences, live experiences, and expertise, and the moral authority of communities demanding changes. Today, I reaffirm that observers' engagement is essential to this INC process. It is a key part of our collective ability to reach an effective, fair, and ambitious agreement. Your voices help clarity to complexities that we have in this process, highlight overlooked impacts, and add urgency to our shared cause. Dear colleagues, dear friends, to promote public participation I have proposed that at the end of tomorrow's plenary meeting, we allocate time for observers' interventions. To ensure diversity and inclusivity, priority will be given to coalitions, alliances, and representative groups. Also, I encourage speakers to be focused as possible also in our work. Additionally, our online document platform will stay open throughout the session, allowing all observers to submit written statements. You know that this is a pivotal moment for the INC. Our shared goal is within reach an effective, legally binding instrument to end plastic pollution with clear, credible rules and ambitious means of implementation. We need an alive text capable of evolving and strengthening over time. The work ahead will be demanding, and you know that. The organization of this resume session has been designed for efficiency and impact from day one, with the goal of delivering concrete negotiation results by week's end. But success on August 14 will not happen automatically. It will depend on everyone working together, maintaining a constructive spirit throughout this session, and supporting member states as they explore creative solutions and seek agreement. I understand that at times, observers may feel sometime and somehow distant from formal decision-taking and making. But I urge you more than ever to participate constructively and purposefully in this process. This is your chance not only to inform your constituencies, but also to build bridges with governments and stakeholders, and to influence the process to help us move forward, not stall. As observers, you are not on the sidelines. You are part of the community shaping this process. A community working together to make balanced decisions that protect the environment, promote human well-being, and respect the needs of all nations. We are all here because we believe in a shared cause, a world free of plastic pollution. Although our paths and our positions might differ, our destination is the same. Even when we reach agreement, as I sincerely hope I will, and I know we will, our work is not finished. Implementation requires resolve, creativity, and the same commitment that brought you here to Geneva. We know there is no end of history, but we can shape its course. And we must give it meaning through dialogue, actions, and persistent pursuit of a just and sustainable future for everyone. Thank you, dear observers, once again for your presence, dedication, and contributions. I look forward to hearing your voices in the plenary tomorrow and working together these days to make reality and to deliver on Resolution 514. Thank you so much for your presence, and thank you so much for your work and the work that you've been carrying out during this whole process in this intersessional also period between Busan and Geneva, and for your work these days in INC 5.2. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. Next, I will give the floor to our Executive Secretary, Ms. Martha Phillip.
Thank you, Juan. Good morning, everybody, and it's great to see you all here. Before I start, I would also like to thank the dear chair, Ambassador Luis Valles Valdivieso, and your team, and Ms. Anderson, the ED of UNEP and the United Nations and USG of the United Nations, Under Secretary General of the United Nations. Thank you so much, both of you, for your tireless weight behind this process for the last 3 years now. Thank you so much. Once again, it is my privilege to co-host this conversation alongside the Executive Director of UNEP and the INC Chair. Since this time is yours, I will be very, very brief. We are here to listen carefully to your perspectives and to respond to any questions you may have. Today, I'm very, very pleased to see new faces in the room. This is a testament to an ever-increasing engagement in this process. I'm also delighted to see all the familiar faces who have been accompanying us since Uruguay INC-1 in 2022. One thing is certain, the presence of both new and long-standing participants reflects the collective commitment that continues to drive this process forward, and for that I am thankful. This marks our 5th event of this kind since this process began, and I wish to thank you sincerely for your unwavering dedication and commitment to our common goal, ending plastic pollution. As you know, this resumed session is a pivotal moment. It is here in Geneva, under the watchful eyes of the world, that the INC is expected to complete negotiations on the international legally binding instrument on plastic pollution, including in the marine environment. We, all of us here, are under no illusions. There is much work ahead. Yet, the steadfast commitment of everyone here lights the path forward and drives the momentum needed to conclude these negotiations with purpose and determinations. Observers play an essential role in this process, as you know. Indeed, your contributions through science, data, community, experience, and technical expertise are essential to inform policymaking and enrich the discussions, as I have already witnessed firsthand in all the previous INC sessions and all the intersessional work that we have carried out in the last 3 years. So please take this opportunity to share your perspectives. We are especially eager to hear about your expectations from the resumed session, and we will do our best to respond to your questions. Before I conclude, let me also take this opportunity to thank the government of Switzerland, both for hosting us in this beautiful Geneva for this critical second part of the 5th session, and also for organizing a multi-stakeholder forum this afternoon from 1300 to 1700 right here in the Assembly Hall. Thank you once again.
Thank you very much, Ms. Matthew-Philip. Dear observers, so as I've mentioned earlier, we have a QR code system since the room is quite large. We want to make sure that we get all the organizations list for those who want to speak. So if you would like to make a question or take the floor, please make sure to scan the QR code. Once your organization is called to speak, please press the mic button in front of you so we can give you the floor. We have received close to 30 requests for the floor, so please bear with us, but we will start taking as a first come, first serve. And now let me open the floor to the first intervention, which is from Women for a Change, Ms. Zonizo. Please, you can press the mic button.
Sorry, just a minute, please, sorry. Thank you very much. I'm Zonziwo. I'm speaking on behalf of the Women's Working Group on Ending Plastic Pollution. And thank you so much, Madam, for your excellent leadership throughout the whole process. My intervention would just be around, we welcome the mention of women in the draft text in the Just Transition section, but we need to highlight that there is only one mention, and gender must be across the full text. As this text, I'm referring to the chair's text, as well as human rights, as we all agree that ending plastic pollution needs a robust gender transformative approach. We would also like to know how UNEP, in its leadership and coordination role, will support parties in integrating and adopting an INC plastic treaty that has a human rights-based approach from implementation, financing, and evaluation. We would wish to submit through UNEP a request to parties attending the INC-5.2 to adopt a text indicating explicitly measures within the treaty to limit plastic production, ban chemicals and polymers of concern, restrict or ban intentionally added microbeads and microplastics, especially in cosmetics, and also establish a globally harmonized system for transparency and traceability of chemicals in plastic pollution and materials throughout their entire life cycle, and design a criteria to end that plastic are free from harmful chemicals and increase longevity and reparability, as well as reuse, reduce, and refill. Most importantly, demanding host countries to be intentional about meaningful participation of women and girls, especially those from Global South. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. We kind reminder to all those who want to intervene, please state your intervention for a few seconds. Unfortunately, we don't have enough time for everybody. Now, let me give the floor to Captain Planet Foundation.
Thank you for giving us the floor. My name is Zara, and I'm 16 years old, and this is my brother.
Hello, I'm Ashton, and I'm 14 years old.
And we are two of only 4 under-18s who have ever attended any of the INC negotiations, and as far as we know, the only under-18s here in Geneva for this critical event to end plastic pollution.
But we are not alone. There are many children that are like us, who work tirelessly for the cause against plastic pollution, sacrificing part of their childhoods to help create a better future for ourselves and future generations.
We personally know multiple youth who actively tried to attend these negotiations, only for their applications to be rejected due to their age. Is this fair? We are the ones that will be most impacted by the outcomes of this treaty.
We are not just here to be the token under-18s. Through our own work, we've been highlighting the importance of including plastic subsidies in the treaty text. Plastic subsidies amount to $45 billion globally each year, which incentivizes the production of plastics, masks their two costs, and makes it hard for non-plastic substitutes to compete in price.
We hope member states will propose to reinstate plastic subsidies back into the treaty text, and for positive subsidies to be used as a means to support non-plastic substitutes.
Plastic subsidies were addressed in prior drafts of the treaty, up until the Chair's non-paper adopted for negotiation at INC 5.1. Why was it decided that plastic subsidies were not important enough for this treaty?
We no longer have the time to debate, delay, and to defer.
Our future is in your hands. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And now let me give the floor to Public Services International.
Thank you very much. Public Services International is the global trade union federation representing over 30 million public service workers worldwide. We are your nurses, your firefighters, your waste management workers. We use plastic products for our work as protective equipment, or we are the ones who deal with waste management, along with many other workers in very vulnerable situations, including those in the informal economy. We have reviewed the chair's text, and we note with great concern that as the text stands, the world of work remains largely forgotten, and its key challenges remain unaddressed as things stand. We have heard from the top table the importance of referring to the UNEP resolution to have a life cycle of plastic approach. But if we look at the preamble, there's an over-focus on the downstream part of the supply chain. This leaves many million workers out. We've heard about the importance of being inclusive, but the issue of occupational safety and health, which concerns and is part of the protection of public health, is left out of the debates and of the text. We've heard about the importance of having a binding treaty with binding rules and regulations. But when we look at the Article 10 on just transition, we only see voluntary approaches and cherry picking. So we are very concerned that if the world of work is not seriously dealt with in this text, the instrument will not achieve its objectives. Organized labor has been there and willing to constructively deliver its expertise, and it has done so since INC-2. Yet, not even once trade unions and organized labor and social partners have been mentioned in this text or in the debates. This is why, when we hear that this is a once-lifetime opportunity to make a breakthrough, we think that organized labor and the whole world of labor must be included in the treaty. We remain available to help provide expertise to the Secretariat, to all delegates who might be interested in making sure that the transition will be successful away from plastic waste and plastic toxic production. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Kind reminder to please keep the interventions short. Next, before we go back to the podium, we'll give the floor to Circle Economy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Executive Director, for allowing me to take the floor. My name is Arthur van Mansveld here on behalf of Circle Economy, working for a Dutch institutional investor that invests in many companies across the plastic value chain. We are very concerned about the impact of plastic waste on human health and the environment. I therefore like to take the opportunity to call on you to include 3 important elements in the Plastics Treaty. First, the Plastics Treaty should address the phase-out of chemicals of concern in plastics to protect the environment and people's health. Secondly, the issue of unsustainable growth of expected plastic production should effectively be addressed in the treaty. Thirdly, referring to the investor statement coordinated by UNEP last year and supported by over 180 large global investors, we call on you that the treaty addresses the alignment of financial flows with the goals of the treaty. Because the financial sector can help solving the plastic crisis, but only if there is a viable business case for the investment in the solutions that we need. Thank you very much for your commitment and perseverance to bring this treaty to an end. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And we now go back to the podium for any responses.
Well, thank you very much, Juan Pablo, and thank you very much for your comments and suggestions. I think all of them very, very important. We take note. And, well, you all have seen the chair's text that we agree in Busan in our last session that will be the initial point for our future negotiations. And our future negotiations are now our negotiations here in Geneva, and starting with that chair's text, with the text I propose in Busan. That text is open for any amendment, inclusion, deletion from members. So my recommendation, what I mentioned also in my opening remarks, is that you also, as observers, work together, approach the delegations, approach negotiators with those great proposals, great ideas, great suggestions that you have. I want to refer particularly to the young colleagues, the young friends that are here. Thank you so much for your words. Thank you so much for reminding us also permanently that we are working for you. I have 2 daughters, and I'm sorry to bring personal things here, but you remind me what I have also in my family. And I have a grandchild, and my youngest one is also pregnant, and we are working for you. Thank you so much for your words. Thank you so much for shaking us, because you need to shake us from time to time to tell us this is reality, this is what we need, and you should work for that to us. Thank you so much for that. Thank you very much. And to all of you, thank you. And to all of you, once again, we need you. I have mentioned before, we need to work together. I am the chair of the INC. I need to keep these negotiations on track. I need to keep countries negotiating, but countries, members, they need your support for it. Thank you very much.
So the chair has spoken to the under-18s, and thank you for being present. It's true that we are not able to, under UN rules, register people who are under 18 because unless there's a chaperone who's also, and you will understand the personal liability and all. However, I am proud to say that at the United Nations Environment Assembly in UNEP, we always have lots of school kids who are definitely under 18, but they come as part of groups and so on, and it adds a difference. Your presence matters, like the chair said, because your voice has a purity of just insight and rationality and morality to it. So thank you. To the women's group, thank you very much for shining a light on the importance of women's presence. And on some of the issues that you've also highlighted, I think the chair has made it very clear, engage with member states. We are but serving the process, but engage with member states. But then the last point that you said, that countries should be intentional about including women in their delegations. Yes, I believe they should. Women hold up half the sky, and women meet some of these plastic challenges and plastic pollution challenges, I should say, in different ways from men. And so it is important that all voices are heard, including half of the world's population. Now, I'm happy to say that we do have many delegations with strong female participation, but everybody should pay attention to that, I believe. We at the United Nations stands very much by the Sustainable Development Goals, and SDG 5 speak to gender equality and equity. The other points from the trade union and Public Services International, I think you made some very important points. And of course, so did Circle Economy, if I got the name right. And so thank you for your presence, and also thank you for highlighting the UNEP-FI statement of, I think it was last year, about alignment of financial flows, something that we from UNEP consider very important. With that, let's hand it back to you, Juan.
Thank you very much. We have a very long line of requests. We have over 40 requests, so please bear with us. The next speaker on the list would be Stitching the Ocean Cleanup. Please, you have the floor.
Good afternoon. Thank you for this opportunity to speak. I'm Rosa Hoveling van Beek from the Ocean Cleanup. We are a research and technology nonprofit with the mission to rid the world's oceans of plastic. We welcome the chair's text, especially the obligation for parties to collaborate on removing existing plastic pollution, both within and the areas beyond. Safe removal of existing pollution in the high seas is critical to prevent the further fragmentation of existing pollution into secondary microplastics and to fulfill the mandate to end plastic pollution, including in the marine environment. Identifying and prioritizing accumulation zones, like oceanic gyres, is essential, and in this case, we echo the call by IOSIS to keep these points in the treaty text, along with a remediation. For Article 7, we call for the evaluation of leakage levels, which is a key way to understand pollution entering the marine environment, and we encourage governments to support monitoring of plastic leakage. Monitoring is critical and remediation itself is a form of monitoring and accountability. As such, we call for the treaty to introduce a mechanism to establish guidelines for the standardization and harmonization on the best available practices for monitoring and how countries can report on their progress. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you very much. And now let me give the floor to the Indian Plastic Institute.
Thank you so much. My greetings to the chair. I'm from India, and it's a very large country with high consumption and thus high generation. So we are trying to look for that what the treaty would be providing India to enhance its capacity for plastic waste management, recycling. While I understand technology transfer and financial assistance is critical, we are concerned about the collections methodologies. So if there is something binding around that, which includes the waste picker community, with social inclusion, systems like EPR and depository fund system, if these are more defined with inclusivity, it'll really help. And then the treaty's agenda to promote the development of circular economy would be enabled. So I really look forward to this support and see that these inclusions on depository fund system and EPR is defined, especially with a neutral body acting between all the actors, stakeholders, connecting them and integrating them so that there is no one party which is getting benefited and they, just for their interest. The neutral body like PRO system, etc., which helps the whole system to work efficiently. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much. And now I'll give the floor to ASEZ, A-S-E-Z.
Hello. Hi. My name is Jasmine Rojas, and I have the pleasure of being a volunteer student with ASEZ, Save the Year from A to Z. Thank you so much for all the commentary that was made in the beginning about working together, being a global village, and being able to support one another to come to an end with this plastic pollution that we see plaguing everyone from all parts of the world. A question that we wanted to ask is, would you be able to share where are we seeing the greatest gaps in the capacity or technological support and the needs? For instance, is it more youth engagement that needs to be valued, or are educational tools and grassroots networking underutilized? Like that, as volunteers, we know how to work together with global leaders and our community. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And now I'll give the floor to the Children and Youth Major Group. Children.
Distinguished panel, observers, good morning. I am Asil Abu Talib from Yemen, speaking on behalf of the Children and Youth Major Group to UNEP and also the Youth Plastic Action Network. As we almost beginning the INC-5.2, we carry forward two critical reminders that we would like to share with you. First, many young people and right holders, especially from the developing countries, are not here with us today. Visas, rejections, and ability to manage to get a visa appointment or canceled travel arrangements due to the shrinking funding landscape have kept them all out. And that said, we welcome the chair remark that is and the proposal of allocating time at the opening plenary for observers to engage, but those who couldn't make it with us will be represented by observers. Hence, we also submit our request to the chair to ensure the engagement of observers and the right to speak during the contact groups as well. Second point is regarding the human rights aspects that should be at the core of this treaty. including among many upholding the principles of intergenerational equity, gender equalities, and the support to the informal sectors, many of which are young people sustaining the waste management systems without proper recognition or protection. And also, this treaty must respond to the realities of marginalized communities, those in humanitarian crisis, conflict zones, and people facing systematic environmental injustice. Ahead of us lies a historic opportunity not only to end plastic pollution, but to shape a treaty to protect the human health and the environment and to secure our shared future. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And now let me give the floor to Earth Island Institute.
Thank you very much, and many thanks to the Secretariat for its fine work. My name is David Worth. I'm Professor of International Law at Boston College, and I am here also representing the Multi-Faith Coalition in support of a legally binding global plastics treaty. The Multi-Faith Coalition is a project of the US-based NGO Beyond Plastics. I am here to transmit written statements from His Holiness the Dalai Lama, His All Holiness Ecumenical Patriarch Bartholomew of the Orthodox Church, and Professor Joachim von Braun, President of the Pontifical Academy of Sciences in the Vatican. My understanding is that there is an opportunity for observers such as myself to speak on the floor in the plenary tomorrow, so I will save my full statement for then. My question is a mechanical one. I would appreciate assistance in clarifying, A, how to request the floor during the plenary tomorrow. My understanding is that there's a process for that. And second of all, to clarify the process for submitting the written statement, which includes these three statements from these faith leaders.
Thank you very much. And now let me give the floor to Mindaru Foundation.
Thank you, Chair, for this opportunity. I'm Professor Sarah Dunlop, Mindaru Foundation. Plastic is making us sick and is a public health burden. We've learnt from other examples of pollution, such as removing lead from petrol, that regulation works. Lead was reducing children's IQ points, increasing heart attacks and strokes, with hundreds of thousands of premature deaths every year. And then global regulation in developed countries, and then with UNEP and yourself as Executive Director of UNEP leading the charge, together with the oil executives over the last 2 decades in developing countries, removed lead from petrol worldwide and meant enormous improvements in health and economic productivity, translating to an aggregate benefits of $8 trillion in the US alone. The world pulled together for plastic. The world pulled together for lead, and it needs to pull together for plastic. We have regulatory systems that ensure our medicines and pharmaceuticals are safe, but for plastic chemicals, we currently have a blind spot. However, we have a really strong opportunity with the Global Plastics Treaty, and we welcome the Chair's text. Global is essential, plastic is everywhere, and it has to be legally binding. Regulation works. And we must regulate across our life cycle, not just babies and children's products. Regulating babies and children's products is too late because babies are exposed in the womb before birth. UNEP's leaving no one behind means protecting the mother to protect the baby and child. We all need to be protected. Include transparency. Tell us what chemicals are in products. The closest one gets to transparency is to buy products that are BPA-free, but we're not told this has been replaced by BPS and other harmful bisphenols. Whether we're in the High Ambition Coalition or part of the like-minded states, all of our populations will be affected from before birth onwards. The treaty is often framed around plastic pollution as an environmental issue. However, I view plastic pollution as a critical threat to human health because our bodies are polluted. And my question is, how do you see the protection of human health being kept at the heart of this treaty? Thank you.
Very much. And now let me give the floor to IPEN.
Thank you. Speaking on behalf of IPEN, a global network of over 600 organizations in 131 countries. I would thank you so much for this opportunity to speak with you. I have two questions, one for the chair as well as the executive director of UNEP. The first question is to Chair Ambassador Valles. For the INCs, INC 5.2, in echoing your statements at the pre-regional meetings, you've said that the contact groups would remain open. My questions are focused around this being a government-led process, so appreciating that the contact groups will remain open, as well as potentially other meeting informals or other informals, that those meetings remain open unless there is a consensus by governments to close those meetings. So we'd like to get your reaction to keeping the meetings open, the contact groups as well as informals, unless there is an agreement by governments to exclude observers, that decision remain with the governments and not the chair as has been the past. So we'd like to get your reaction to that. And second, to UNEP Executive Director, Ms. Anderson, we hope to have an outcome here in Geneva. And we know from Geneva the next event will be a diplomatic conference, and then leading to that a process to a conference of the parties. We are tracking a potential controversy about what that process looks like. We'd like to get your reflections and reaction to this. We are familiar with the process leading to the COPs, like in the Stockholm Convention and in the Minamata Convention, of INCs that are government-led, elected bureau, elected chair, where it's government-led, and the concern that we want to get your reaction to is a preparatory process that might be held by UNEP or UNEP agency instead of governments. So we would like to hear your reaction to that, as well as provide your views about what that could look like, assuming, again, we have a successful outcome here, and the period from the diplomatic conference to the COP, which may be a multi-year process. I thank you very much for this opportunity.
Thank you. And now I'll give the floor to the Basel Action Network. Basel Action Network. Okay, we go on to the next organization, the Coalition for Local and Subnational Governments.
Thank you very much for giving me the floor. And we would like, I'm Camelia Kemileva from the Global Cities Hub, speaking on behalf of Local and Subnational Governments Coalition. And some mayors are here in the room, and some representatives of regional governments are also here. I would like to express our commitment to work together with everyone here to have a strong adopted text, and once again to remind the importance of including local and subnational governments, which will be in the front stage of implementing the treaty, because I am optimistic that there will be an outcome of this meeting. And just wanted to mention also that we have sent our proposed language, as the chair advised, to member states, to you, dear chair, and we are very happy to have already the inclusion of local and regional governments in the current Article 8 and 12 of the chairperson text. Wanted to thank you about this, and to urge everyone to increase also other references to local and regional governments, as they will be, as I said, key for implementation. I wanted also to remember the question of other speakers and to ask how mainly you plan to include observers in all stages of the negotiations. We are very grateful to speak at the beginning, but wish to be included also in the contact groups and all the stages of the negotiations. So if you can address this. And finally, a personal remark, if I may, to the President. This very room has been undergoing renovation work for many years. So this is the first meeting after this renovation in this room, which has seen many other glorious meetings. So let's make it great again. Thank you.
Thank you. And now I'll give the floor to Objective Sciences International.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much. Objective Science International make participatory science activities through the world, and we wanted to express the question or the opportunity to integrate the participatory science inside the plastic treaty, supporting bottom-up capacity building and empowering of citizens like local communities, grassroots scientists, to become long-term actors in the treaty's implementation and evolution. So particularly in regions lacking institutional monitoring capacity. Bottom-up data, ownership, and actions are essential to ensure the treaty is not only enforced from the top, but also evolves through real-world feedback and community innovation. Participatory science offers a proven way to build trust, capacity, and engagement from the ground up. So it's a short, concrete proposal to include in the treaty's implementation roadmap, establish a global participatory science and monitoring mechanism, anchored in 3 pillars: harmonize protocols for citizen science-based plastic pollution monitoring, allowing data from communities, schools, fishermen, NGOs to be comparable, verifiable, and usable in official assessments. Capacity building framework to train local actors, including youth and indigenous communities, to conduct plastic audits, report illegal dumping, and innovate in waste reductions with South-South knowledge exchange as its course. And participatory feedback loops, linking grassroots observations to treaty governance bodies, ensuring continuous improvement, relevance, and co-design of solutions over time. So that can allow us to create a bridges global policy with local realities, turns passive citizens into empowered stakeholders, and fosters a culture of accountability, innovation, and resilience in the face of plastic pollution. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And unfortunately, we are already over time, so I would be taking 2 more from the floor, and then we get back to the panelists for responses. And let me give the floor now to Healthcare Without Harm.
Hello. Thank you for giving me the floor. So I'm Michelle Reyes, Healthcare Without Harm, representing 2,000 members worldwide. So as a medical doctor, I bring the voice of 48 million health professionals worldwide through our open letter, and real stories, data, and information that will be helpful for member states. My feedback and question is that how can we ensure that what happened in Busan, Korea, mainly limiting observers and their participation, will not happen again here in Geneva? Because of that limited participation in the past INC, we risk losing Article 19 on health and integrating health in relevant articles such as on chemicals of concern, product design, releases and leakages, and other articles. Observers have real, on-the-ground stories, research, information, and technical expertise, and are willing to have meaningful participation. We hope that the next few days will showcase how serious we are in achieving our objectives, which is to end plastic pollution that is legally binding to protect human health and the environment. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And now I'll give the floor to Asia Indigenous Peoples Pact.
Thank you very much for this opportunity, distinguished chair, Madam ED and Madam Executive Secretary. We in these peoples are resolute in our calls for ambitious, inclusive, and legally binding global plastic treaty that addresses the disproportionate impacts and upholds the rights-based approach about the participation of these peoples, women, youth, children, voice speakers, and all. All elements of the treaty must uphold the UN Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples. We have 4 key messages and then the demands to this INC-5.2. Embed the rights of Indigenous peoples in all aspects of the treaty. The UN Declaration as a fundamental international instrument setting a minimum standard affirms our inherent collective and individual rights, including the rights to self-determination, free from consent, Despite earlier version of the text acknowledging the minimum standard, the chair's text has removed all references to the UN declaration. So we kindly request to the chair and then the member states to reinsert those texts and defend the UN declaration in all aspects of the treaty. The second message we have, do not conflate indigenous peoples with other groups. Indigenous peoples are right holders and have worked tirelessly both domestically and internationally to secure recognition of our distinct legal status, rights, and roles, ensuring our unique rights and priorities are addressed. Our rights of self-determination as peoples, affirmed under international law, is distinct from minority population, local communities, civil society stakeholders. Grouping and conflating indigenous peoples with local communities gives rise to the erroneous interpretation that these distinct populations have comparable rights, undermining the full breadth of the status, rights, and role of indigenous peoples. So we urge the chair and the member states to ensure that the treaty upholds our distinct status, rights, and roles, avoiding any unnecessary conflation with other groups. The third message, ensure the full and effective participation of indigenous peoples. We call to the chair and the member states to address limited and extractive references to the indigenous knowledge in the current text by ensuring our full and effective participation in the treaty, bodies and mechanisms as affirmed in inter alia and the UN Declaration Article 3, 5, 18, and 27, including Article 41. The fourth, address the full life cycle of the plastic starting from extraction. We indigenous peoples are often on front lines of the plastic pollution crisis and impacted at all stages of the plastic life cycle, which starts at extraction of the fossil fuels and used to produce plastic through its dump sites and pervasive microplastics that have discredited our territories and bodies. So the treaty will fail those affected by plastic pollutions if it does not address the full life cycle of plastic and ensure a just and equitable transition. And thank you very much to the chair for informing to all of us here about the intervention space. And then third, second, we also request to the chair to ensure the intervention space during the contact groups negotiations. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Unfortunately, we still have over 20 speakers in line, and we are already running over time, so I apologize in advance to all those who did not get the floor to speak. Let me get back to the panel for reflections and responses.
Thank you very much, Juan Pablo. And once again, thank you so much for your comments and questions and also suggestions that, as I said before, we take note of each one of those, and very important ones, all of them. But I will refer to some of the questions and comments, and I will start about the gaps that it was mentioned and how to deal with that and how to approach to the countries, well, and which are the gaps you ask. Well, you all have seen the chair's text. You have seen what has happened also in this intersessional period where countries have been working, and I take this opportunity also to express, even though now we are with observers, but countries have worked very hard, also different delegations, different groups of countries meeting quite often to actually work with those gaps. So where I ask you is to check those more complex provisions, more complex or more difficult articles where we need to breach positions. We need to find common grounds, and we need to find also identify those landing zones that we must use them here in our negotiations that will start tomorrow. So there are some articles that has more or a higher level of convergence, and others that they don't have that level of convergence. So it's in those ones, in the second ones, where I ask you also to reach delegations, to talk to them. You will face them all the time here in the Palais de Nación, where and I ask you to work with them together. It will be important to hear different positions, so you could help us, or you could help members also to find and to bridge those positions into solutions. About the informals and observers' participation in the different settings of the meetings, well, my goal and my guidance has been always to work with transparency and inclusivity. And there are lessons learned, and I take also this part to answer about Busan and the participation of observers in Busan. There are lessons that I have learned too. And I see your point. I see your point. I see the importance of you, and I have mentioned before the importance of observers participating in our process. There are UN practices. We are, I think, all of you or most of you have been participating in many processes during many years in negotiations where it's quite common to have these informal settings where members meet by themselves and bring also solutions to the negotiations. That's quite common. In the contact groups, yes, observers will be there, and the outcomes of those informal negotiations, informal meetings, will be brought to the contact groups too. Will be brought to the contact groups where, with transparency, you will see. We've been working with the Secretariat and with the co-chairs and with the members to also how to present those outcomes in non-papers, in documents that they will come from the...
Translated into regulations or into standards or into other measures. On the issue of other issues that are substantive in nature, I think the chair has responded to, bring these to the delegations, ensure that they are aware of the aspects that you are highlighting, so that these can be part of what member states who are present here in the form of members, what member states wish to see. And at the end of the day, I would very much urge that you do so. Thank you to the Asia Indigenous Peoples Group for underlining important aspects of voice, representations, presence. I think this is very important, and I'm sure that you will say so again in other settings. And so thank you, that matters greatly, certainly to UNEP. We understand environmental rights, and we understand the significance of the United Nations General Assembly decision pertaining to just that. On the point raised by IPEN, I think there was a particular question for me, and I think it was about what happens between the Diplo conference and COP1. And if that's the case, that's how I'm answering this question, because I wasn't exactly sure. Obviously, this is not a UNEP process. We are but the servants that make and serve a member state decision. And if the question were between Diplo conference and COP, then yeah, there would need to be convened on the basis of decisions that are taken by members at the diplomatic conference. And that's how it happened at both Minamata and BRS. Stockholm, which are the latest, I suppose. They called their committee doing this work, and they called it that committee for entry into force. They called it an INC, but the name is but a name. That's immaterial. In BBNJ, for example, it's called a commission. It's not the name. There will be a thing, a name will be determined, that will work on between Diplo and COP1, and UNEP would serve, I expect, as the interim secretariat to that process, as we have done also now. And presumably, at least that's how the chair's text stand, UNEP would be then tasked also to provide a secretariat to support the process, and indeed the COPs that would follow. I hope that that's clear. We have no intentions of taking this over as UNEP, and I don't think member states would want that either, so rest assured in that regard. I think these were the primary questions that were raised, and I hope that I have adequately responded to them. Maybe we can hand it over to Ms. Matthew-Philip.
Thank you so much. So I'm just going to respond to some of the questions asked about submission of statements, etc. So first of all, we have an in-session platform, documents platform for the submission of all statements. You should have received a notification last night. Also, there was one sent to update your focal points, etc. This will only be open tomorrow morning. So if you're trying to do it today, it's not open as yet. It will be open tomorrow morning for statements. Regarding plenary observer statements, there will be a QR code system, which we've had since INC-3. And for observers to request the floor in plenary, you must indicate the name of your organization, and if you are representing a group, a coalition, or alliance of accredited observer organizations. And finally, regarding the contact group rooms, there will be dedicated seating in the contact group rooms for observers, but it is limited. However, we do have an overflow room for observers and member states, to which you can also be directed. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Dear observers, this brings us to the end of our meeting, and I hope you have found this conversation enriching with the Executive Director, the INC Chair, and INC Executive Secretary. Thank you for taking part and sharing your feedback as questions with us today. You are always welcome to reach out to me or any member of the Secretariat if you have additional questions or require any additional support during this session. And as mentioned as well, there will be in this same room today, starting at 1 p.m., hosted by the government of Switzerland, a multi-stakeholder forum in this same room. Thank you once again, and we hope to see you all in the next few days.